Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It would appear that Turkey's own up-and-comer, Serene Setin, is set to return to action early next month on the 8th against an opponent that has yet to be announced. Serene Setin, that sports a professional record of 12 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 7 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 13 professional bouts. Best described as a mid-range to inside volume puncher, a pressure fighter, and an entertaining one. It was in May of last year that young Serene challenged unified bantamweight champion Dina Thorslund for her 2 alphabet titles, and she came up short. She came up short big time, but she has since rebounded off that loss in October of that same year, and now she's set to return to action next month against an opponent that is yet to be announced in what is an 8-rounder scheduled for 8 rounds in the women's featherweight division, featherweight, where Serene Setin is now ranked at number 11.
She moved up?
Apparently she did in her last fight, so now she's campaigning at 126 pounds, though for me personally, I think she should move back down to 118. If she can make it, if she can get there safely, she should move back down to 118 pounds and go the IBF route. IBF champion Sharita Metcalf should be her target.
Why?
Well, Sharita is up there in age. She is many years older than Serene Setin. Time is not on her side, and neither is the stylistic matchup. Sharita Metcalf is a pure boxer, whereas Serene Setin is a pressure fighter. Usually, though not always, but usually, pressure fighters have a tendency to wear out pure boxers. I think that Serene Setin can succeed where Miyo Yoshida failed in her last bout, her rematch with Sharita that she should have won.
The judges robbed her.
Being 13 years older than Serene Setin, as stated, time is not on Sharita's side.
And that's why Serene should go after her. That is, if she can get back down to 118. Maybe she can't.
Not sure. She decided to move up to 126 in her last fight. I don't think that's the ideal weight for Serene Setin, and being honest with you, with just 13 professional bouts, that's a very competitive division. There is a lot of talent there, and not much chance that Serene can win a belt from either Amanda Serrano or Sky Nicholson.
Nope.
Nina Menka. I don't like Serene's chances against those champions, but at 118, against Sharita, she's got a shot. A legitimate one.
What about 122?
Well, I don't think she beats Ellie Scottney for her belts, and I don't think she'd be able to get Yami Mercado in the ring. Yami's a tricky one. Get in a fight with Yami. She's got the WBC. Nazarena Romero has the WBA.
I don't think Serene beats her either. Nazarena's got too much firepower. She's a pressure fighter, just like Serene Setin, but much, much stronger.
I think if Serene can get down to 118, that's her best bet to get at a world title. In the ring with Sharita Metcalf, if she can still make it. Like I said, I don't know if she can. Her next fight is scheduled to go down early next month, and it is in the featherweight division.
In her native Turkey.
It's where she's from. Whoever it is she's going to be fighting, she will have home field advantage. She will be the house fighter.
Likely a bring-along fight.
Against a bring-along kind of opponent, girl who's not really there to win so much as give Serene a few rounds, let her amass some more professional experience. I always felt that it was far too soon for Serene to be fighting somebody like Dina Thorslund.
I knew it was going to happen, and it did. But the Dina Thorslund fight aside, Serene Setin is a good fighter.
She is entertaining to watch, and there are legitimate world title possibilities there if she plays her cards right. Look for the ring return of Serene Setin February 8th.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, in the men's junior middleweight division, I'm sure that most of you have heard by now, per veteran boxing scribe Mike Kopinger, the Sebastian Fundora versus Errol Spence title fight is now off.
Sources tell ESPN. Fundora, the unified junior middleweight champion, is now seeking a new opponent for his first defense of his 2 alphabet titles. The fight was originally planned for October of last year, then was slated for March 29th of this one. WBO President Gustavo Olivieri said the WBO could not sanction Fundora versus Spence due to the latter being 1. Inactive for a year and 5 months, 2. Coming off a TKO loss in his last bout, 3. Not even rated at 154, and 4. Has never fought in the 154-pound division. Ruling otherwise would be a disservice to the rest of the junior middleweight world-rated fighters.
That's what I said.
That's it.
It's a slap in the face of all those guys in the WBO's rankings that are paying them sanctioning fees and fighting in eliminators in the hopes that one day they'll get to fight for the title if you fast-track a welterweight who got annihilated in his last fight.
To a title shot? A guy who hasn't fought in a year and 5 months. Mike Kopinger reacted to Gustavo's comment by saying it's hard to argue with this logic from the WBO president. Only the WBC title was set to be on the line in Fundora versus Spence because the WBC is more freewheeling.
More like they ain't got no standards. So long as they get their sanctioning fees, they don't care.
Whereas the WBO is doing a better job of upholding a standard that somebody in Errol's position, coming off a loss and a lot of inactivity, should not be allowed to fight for an alphabet title, let alone 2. 4-division champion Terence Crawford reacted to this news by saying, "Shoulda took the fight when you had the chance. Now it's over with."
Who's that for?
Sebastian. We all know by now that Terence Crawford, in a fight with him, was never Sebastian Fundora's first choice. The night that he beat Tim Kazoo, his longtime manager or promoter or whatever he is, Simpson said that Terence Crawford would have to wait because they want to fight Spence.
Almost a year ago, in March.
Terence was never Team Fundora's first choice for Sebastian's next fight. Now, it would seem that Terence has removed himself from the running because he's got bigger fish to fry and plans of his own. Though who will Sebastian fight? According to Mike Kopinger, unbeaten up-and-comer from right here in the US of A, Charles Conwell is one fighter being considered for the Fundora title shot per sources. Charles would be a high-risk, low-reward opponent for Sebastian. Nobody really knows Charles, and he's good. He can fight.
That's the problem. He's no pushover.
Neither is Sergey Bohachuk, who's coming off that win over Ishmael Davis, who he dispatched in under 6 rounds, I believe it was. Under 6.
Pressure fighter versus pressure fighter. I like the sound of that.
But I don't think Sampson does, because when you target a fighter like Errol Spence Jr., coming from what he's coming from, it's clear you want to stay on easy street.
Even if it costs you a lot of time, and as it turns out, it did cost you a lot of time. Costed your fighter.
The other day I saw Errol Spence Jr. say, "I really could be training and taking peds, juiced up for 2 years, taper off and kill someone. It's nothing in place to protect these boxers. Especially if you're not an elite fighter, they don't give a rat's ass about you." And I didn't know why at the time, when I read that comment. What it heralded to me is trouble in paradise, that something's not working for Spence behind the scenes, and this Sebastian Fundora fight may not happen. If you've been following this channel the last year or so, since this became a talking point, I've told you, I'd be surprised if this thing happens.
Spence and Fundora?
The dominoes at the PBC continue to fall for a good number of reasons. One, it's hardly ideal for a fighter like Spence, coming off a year and a half of inactivity and a life-altering beating, to go right into a fight with Sebastian and at a new weight with a new trainer.
Because remember, he's not with Derek James anymore, and they never announced who's going to be training Errol moving forward, assuming Errol keeps fighting. I think he might not.
I think there's a distinct possibility this guy might retire.
After just one loss?
These PBC fighters are never who they make them out to be. That's why they can't rebound like some other fighters. Some other fighter loses a fight, gets back in the winner's bracket, gets back on the saddle, gets it going. Whereas these PBC guys, they lose one fight. And they're never the same after that. Look, I don't think Errol is a bad guy. He seems alright. But as far as his ability to box, his boxing, I always said the guy's overrated. And I always said when Terence gets his hands on him...
Come on, what about the car accident?
Don't start talking to me about the car accident. Because when he beat the crap out of Danny Garcia, and when he busted Ugas's eye all up, I didn't see anybody worrying about the car accident. No, people don't decide that that's relevant until after Terence exposed him.
That's what that was. You guys are the ones that put him on a pedestal. Don't expect me to let up now. I told you for years, Errol's not in the same league as Terence. and that's what you saw.
That's why he ain't rebound yet. Why he ain't recovered. Don't you notice when these PBC guys lose one fight?
Just one.
They're never the same after that. This was supposed to be the main event of yet another PBC show in late March.
Not anymore.
One name that almost immediately comes to mind is the name of former undisputed junior middleweight champion Jermell Charlo, who said nobody should be fighting for a junior middleweight championship title without seeing me first.
Rumors abound. There have been rumors about Jermell's return to the junior middleweight division, return to the ring.
It would seem that his Instagram story is a reaction to what's going on with Sebastian and Errol, what's not going on now.
It would seem that Jermell is throwing his name into the hat. That's why he tagged Mauricio Suleiman. He wants to be fast-tracked to a shot at Sebastian's belts.
Now, Jermell's circumstances really aren't that much better than Errol's, that Errol has been out for well over a year, and so has Jermell.
Errol is coming right off a one-sided loss, and so is Jermell.
So the last time Jermell Charlo fought was well over a year ago at 168, but the last time he fought at junior middle, the last time he fought at 154 was something like 2 going on 3 years ago. That's why for as many of these rumors as there are about Jermell returning to 154, I've been skeptical the whole time. A guy in his mid-30s who last fought at 168 over a year ago is gonna boil back down to 154 that he hasn't made in over 2 years. I don't know about that, and I don't think that Al Heyman holds the same sway that he used to with the sanctioning bodies, all of which are in bed with Turkey LL Sheik.
They go where the money is.
The money's with Turkey, that goes without saying. The most you can do with Jermell is put it on pay-per-view and hope that people buy it. But remember, the last time people saw Jermell, they weren't happy. His stock is at an all-time low. Sebastian, God bless him, he might be unified champion, but he's not a big draw himself.
So while Jermell Charlo would like to be fast-tracked to Sebastian Fundora's 2 alphabet titles, I don't know that he will.
And Errol? What about Errol?
This may be the end.
Boxing insider Rick Glacier, who's been saying it from the beginning that this fight was not going to happen, he reacted to the news by saying, after today's cancellation of Errol Spence fighting Sebastian Fundora, everyone should now realize Errol Spence himself realizes how completely shot he really is. The phase that Errol is in now is commonly referred to as Gonzo. We may never see Errol ever step foot in the ring again. And if he doesn't, what that effectively means is that Terence Crawford in one fight will have retired the great Errol Spence Jr., who they used to refer to as the Truth.
Now they call him Gonzo.
And the truth is, he was never on Terence Crawford's level, and that's why they worked so hard for so long to put distance between Errol and Terence.
They hate him for it. Terence Crawford. That's why even now you have a cult of boo-birds that trash him every chance they get. They're angry.
He exposed their hero, their idol, their icon.
2023 was not a good year for the PBC, contrary to what some might think.
They may have staged the biggest fights of that calendar year, but Errol losing the way that he did, that heralded the end of the PBC.
Perhaps it's kismet that earlier in that same week, Stephen Fulton, another PBC fighter, got dominated in Japan by Inoue so that Spence could get dominated that following weekend
by Terence Crawford. The prophecy, as it were, it's almost fulfilled. The PBC has been limping along ever since Showtime left the sport of boxing.
Only 5 shows last year. How many do you think they're going to do this one? Because this is one less on the calendar.
There's not going to be a Spence versus Fundora fight, and I'm not the least bit surprised. Now for a bit of advice for young Sebastian Fundora, who still reigns as unified junior middleweight champion, what he needs now more than anything is activity. But he should forget about a Charles Conwell fight. That's a lot to take on under these circumstances in 10 months of inactivity. Forget about Charles, forget about Charlo.
Samson needs to take him the Golden Boy.
I mean, what is Samson Lukowicz? Stupid? Read the writing on the wall. The PBC ain't got no money. You just wasted 10 months of your fighter's time waiting around for Spence, just for nothing to happen. Take him the Golden Boy. Let Oscar De La Hoya sign him, do a multi-fight deal, and get him a keep busy fight, because he's got to get ready for the winner of Madrimov versus Ortiz. Don't forget that the winner of that fight, whoever it is WBC interim champion.
Sooner or later, they're gonna come looking for your guy. And what's he gonna do? Give up the last bit of leverage he's got? One of those alphabet titles?
He needs to get ready. He needs more now than you can give him in your current situation. He needs to go to Golden Boy.
They can keep him busy. They can find him someone safe to fight in the interim.
Because it would be a great pity if Sebastian Fundora would have pulled off an upset the way that he did last year, and he was unable to parlay that into a big payday and a big fight because of his bungling manager or promoter or whatever Samson Lukowicz is, because I still don't know.
The PBC are not off to a good start this year. They are not.
How the mighty have fallen. This is one less fight on the calendar that they are going to put on. Could you believe that at the start of this year, there were still those holding out hope that the PBC would have a better year this year than the last one was, after all the empty promises of last year were left unfulfilled? You're still holding out hope they can turn it all around?
What are you, a moron?
I see no reason why Sebastian Fundora should remain at the PBC. I don't see any real reason any fighter should stay over there.
Gervonta Davis says he's going to. He's going to stay loyal to Al Heyman.
Whatever that's worth. This is supposed to be his last year in boxing, and if it is, what does the PBC have left?
Charlo brothers?
Inactive Charlo and junkie Charlo? Substance abuse Charlo?
Give me a break.
Dominoes continue to fall in a prophecy that I foretold here on this channel many, many years ago. The way these guys do business, it's just not sustainable. And the chickens, as they were, have finally come home to roost. I hate to say I told you so for the millionth time, though if I don't, you'll run around pretending it didn't happen, that I didn't warn you.
Al Heyman is not the wizard he's made out to be in their business model.
They're on borrowed time. In many ways, we all are, though some more than others. The PBC in this situation. You can't just run around frittering other people's money.
Frittering it away, overpaying fighters that don't deserve it, and giving nothing back to the networks that you're in bed with, or the fans you want to support you.
Al Heyman's entire philosophy was to treat the sport of boxing as if it's a fire sale, or a bank heist. Taking and taking, but not giving anything back and not really planning and building towards the future. Now they have none.
They don't have one.
Now boxing will be better without him and without them and their bad business practices.
The division they created, the culture. Your side of the street, my side of the street.
Enough of that bullshit.